On this episode, we are honored to have Johanna Rothman, widely known as the Pragmatic Manager. Johanna is a celebrated author, consultant, and speaker who has spent decades helping organizations tackle their most challenging product developments and management problems with practical, no-nonsense solutions. As the owner of Rothman Consulting Group, Johanna has dedicated over 30 years to providing actionable advice that transforms how leaders and teams approach their work. She's written numerous books, including Manage IT, Your Guide to Modern Pragmatic Project Management, and Create Your Successful Agile Project. Her insights are not just theoretical, they are rooted in years of experience solving real world problems. Johanna work spans consulting, writing, and speaking at conferences, where she challenges conventional thinking and inspires leaders to adopt adaptable, effective strategies. Beyond consulting, Johanna's contribution as a writer include thought-provoking columns, blogs, and even a YouTube channel where she shares her expertise on topics ranging from agile methodologies to leadership. In today's episode, we will dive into Johanna's approach to manage complexity in product development, her philosophy on leadership, and how she helps teams find clarity and effectiveness in their work. So, without further ado, let's welcome Johanna Rothman.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here.
I'm very happy that you accept our invitation, and it's very good to have you here today, Johanna.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. How do you define leadership and what makes a good leader?
So I'm going to separate the two of those because anybody can be a good leader. And leadership means that you enable everyone to contribute to the problem at hand. So if you have a project team, how can everyone, including the most junior people, contribute to solving the problem? Right? Projects always, well, effective projects solve problems. Most of the time, well, in my experience, they solve problems for customers, resulting in a product. So, how can we create an environment where everyone can lead? Maybe not all at the same time, right? But how can we create that environment where everyone can contribute to the whole? And that's what makes a good leader. So sometimes that means you're out in front and you're saying, "Follow me. Let's go here." But more often, that's leadership that says, "I would like to collaborate with you." Right? We are doing a collaboration on this podcast. Now, we both know the rules in quotes for collaborating on a podcast. You talk, I talk, you talk, I talk. Um, but it's a little bit different in projects. However, the more often we collaborate as a team, the more pervasive the leadership can be in the team.
Understood. And you mentioned very important things here that I would like to know more about it. So, as you said, the projects they solve problems for the customers, and the environment where people is working on in order to solve those problems are very important. Could you please tell us a little bit more? And also considering that we are having a big change in the workplaces where people may be remotely, or in sometimes they may be actually in office on site.
I actually had a meeting this morning with I thought everyone was going to be distributed, but they were in one office, and I was in my home office, and they had sufficient cooling, but it was not great audio. This is this is the problem of distributed agile, well, any kind of teams. But I say the more distributed we are, the more we need agility because we need to adapt and 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 be resilient in how we work together. So I turned up the volume. I said to them, please make sure you're near the speaker, the microphone, right? All of that stuff. I requested what I needed, and they also changed a little bit about their setup that allowed us to collaborate. But I actually think there are many, many more changes coming, right? The rise of AI, where right now I think AI is solving the wrong problems. I would really like AI agents that say, Johanna, you need to remember to publish that thing on your YouTube channel. I, I would really like that as opposed to just my calendar, because there are several steps, as you well know. I would really like AI to do those steps. I would like to kick on off and then have AI do the rest for me. But what AI does not need to do is write a project charter. AI does not need to write stories. I don't see how AI can, because it's all in how we collaborate to actually write the project charter and write the stories, that we understand what is the goal of this project, what is the vision, who is who is this project for, how will we solve their problems. And the more we collaborate as humans, the better our outcomes are. And that's why I see a lot of change going on, with remote work, with AI, with all the changes in the world for politics. We are in for a roller coaster, which is fine.
Yes, indeed, agree. Roller coaster, and that's as we say, there's a hype, and usually in this hype we are selling out what is actually not out there yet. It's just a dream. It's something that we would like to have. And I see your vision when you see that AI will be a very great tool to support your day-to-day work, as you
Mhm.
mentioned, like scheduling your calendar or taking care of small things that it will take some of your time while you focus on what is more important. And not only for you, of course, but we are talking about teams here. And in the rise of AI, and also, let's say, the way that we are changing how we work into the office, how do you see all of these things together? Because it seems that the human factor is putting in the second plan.
I wish I had an answer. I do not have a single coherent answer. But what I can say is the more we practice our adaptability and resilience, the more effective we can be. Right? So let me give you an example that I see a lot in projects. I see people wanting backlogs of 12 to 24 months. That's nuts. I know. Your expression is yeah. I agree, but I see this a lot in programs where we think we know where the product is heading, but we need to practice a lot more adaptability and say how how little planning can we do. And I talked about how little first in Manage It, your guide to modern pragmatic project management, and when we think about how little we can plan, how little we need to do for the future, right? If we focus on now and we finish our work, right? Really finish, not half finish, not quarter finish, but really finish, that allows us to be adaptable and resilient for the future.
Understood. So as we see, adaptability is the key and is one of the things we have been doing for a while, even as a species, and that's the reason why we are pretty much everywhere on this planet. And I'm very glad to listen it from you and also to remind. And going to this direction, which book, article, or thought leader has greatly influenced your professional thinking and why, Johanna?
So I need to say something about Jerry Weinberg, Gerald M. Weinberg. If you have not read any of his books, you need to. I I was a senior in college when I read The Psychology of Computer Programming. And when I read it, I was just coming off a terrible so-called team project. We were we were all doing our own thing. We we did we implemented across the architecture instead of through it, and we all hoped that it would come together in time for our final grade. Well, at 12 hours before the end of the project, when we had to show it, because we were in college, right? Everybody else had delayed starting their part of the project. I think I was the only one who had started early, most mostly because I'm not very good at seeing the overall architecture until I see the little pieces that make up the architecture. So I work from the bottom up. So we had a disastrous team and a disastrous project. We almost failed, but we had something we could show. And then I read The Psychology of Computer Programming. And I said, okay, if I work differently and figure out how to bring my teammates along, I am much more likely to succeed. That book made me change. I was all set to give up on computer science and say, oh, I'll just be a disc jockey and work in radio. However, I read that book and I said, oh, there is a different way to work. And then, of course, I read all of Weinberg's other books. So yeah, I think he was a thought leader in the best sense of leading, where he actually said to people, "Here are things you might not know, right? That's the leadership part of it. And now let me give you explanations and examples of how you might do this, right? That's enabling all of the other people to build their skills and work as leaders."
What you said is very important because I don't know if it's recently or if it's something that is here for a long time, but I noticed that there are people out there that they start to feel frustrated, mostly because they are not having the opportunities or somehow they are not seizing the opportunities that they could improve and move forward on the I would say the personal skills, right? Not only the hard skills, but mostly the soft skills is where exactly come the leadership and all of that things. And what do you think about that? I mean, it's really hard to find a mentor in there, someone that would dedicate or spend some time with you in order to guide you, not actually do anything for you, but at least show you something, go in this direction, or maybe that direction you choose, but there's a way. And you think we may need better leaders, or we are having less leaders than we used to have?
So I'm not sure if there are fewer leaders or more, but what I do see is a problem in management expectations. For years, senior leaders think that first line managers can mentor technical people and do the management work. And while it's possible for for some technical managers to do that, most technical managers have way more management work than they can possibly do. They do not have enough time to also mentor the people who work for them, especially not in an agile team. That means the agile team needs to mentor itself. Now, there are plenty of things managers can do. For example, having a learning meeting once a week, right? Where everybody takes a turn teaching something that they learned either last week or the month before or whatever, right? But something relevant to the rest of the team. Now that allows people to do the uh, see one, do one, teach one, right? Or whatever that is. But that manages the expectations of the people on the team to all mentor each other. That's that's one way you get pervasive leadership, right? Where everybody can contribute to the betterment of the team. And so I find that the more we rely on one person for any one thing, the worse the team is, and the worse our skills and capabilities are. Instead, we all need to have a way to collaborate across the organization, across the team. Managers need to collaborate across the organization, but whatever it is, we cannot have one individual be responsible for any one thing. That really does not work.
Something interesting that it may come into your mind. I heard the way that you say that when you have only one person, right? Mostly, you are you are already in an environment where you have the hero culture, right?
Yep.
Which is a very negative and detrimental. And the second thing is that you are also showing that this environment have also a skill silo. It means you do have someone that is a specialist. Of course, depending on the environment, how this environment is aggressive or not, this person may feel comfortable or not to share and help others to get better. But the point is that you're already saying a lot about the environment where these persons are finding themselves in. And you think that the work environments they have become way more aggressive, or you see that no, it's not about the environment, it's more about the targets, the goals, the things that people actually need to do and bring value as soon as possible, and other things just stay behind.
So what I have noticed is that a lot of managers feel an enormous amount of pressure, right, to deliver whatever that delivery is, and too often the pressure is really not warranted, right? If the customer had to wait another couple of weeks, that would be fine, right? Um, and when managers are under pressure, they they put their teams under pressure. That's really bad, right? So the pressure always rolls downhill as other stuff rolls downhill. And if we can really think about what is necessary, and maybe that pressure is warranted, but then often not for everything, just for this piece of the product.
Very clear. Thank you. What has been your greatest struggle and how did you overcome it?
Um, so I actually have a little problem with this question because I've had all kinds of struggles. Some of them have been big, some of them have been small, and when I was first working, I had a lot of trouble finding um, the the balance between my work and my life. And then once I had children, that that made all the difference in the world for me because I had responsibilities to people at home. I could not work whenever I wanted to. And we talk about this as in work life balance, but I have come to realize it's much more important that we think about life. The more we think about having a fulfilling life in all aspects of our lives, the more likely we are to make better choices. So when I was a middle to senior manager in organizations before I became a consultant, and I finally said to my husband, um, I don't think I don't think I'm ready to to build a life about around being a senior leader because I don't like what a lot of these companies stand for. Yet they really need my help. I want to work with the people. I want to work on the problems. I don't want to work in their environments. That means I want to be a consultant. And my husband said to me, I made a very good choice about my husband. Um, marrying him. My husband said to me, "Oh, okay, can you do that and make money?" I said, "Yes, I can." So that's when I chose to be a consultant, and that was actually the best decision I made. Not because I made more money or made less money. I made plenty of money, and we used it to send our kids to college and all that good stuff. But I did not have to live in the environment that made me nuts. I could live in my own environment and still offer significant value to people and teams and problems in their organizations. And that made all the difference in my life. Right, struggling to be a middle or senior leader in an organization was not worth it for me. But I wanted to work. I wanted to make a difference. And that, so I'm not sure if I overcame it, but I managed it.
You did one of the most difficult things. You figure out what you want. And once you figure out what you want, you just went for it and you did your everything. So I think you have a very good definition of success. How do you define success, and do you feel you have achieved it, Johanna?
Okay. So, um, I define success in various stages. You are not surprised. So, there's personal success, there's team based success for a product, there's various kinds of success in life. And for me, it's all it's all one big circle that encompasses everything. So I feel as if I am successful at writing and speaking and consulting. I often have success with my clients because they choose one or two or three things to change and then build on those, right? So I feel successful there. I do not always feel success because sometimes the client's environment prevents them from actually doing the things that I recommend. So that's fine. But I find that success is a varying thing. And if I think about one of your other questions was about legacy and how I wanted to be remembered. And I think of success as part of this. So, for example, my kids still talk to me. my kids are old enough to have children of their own. So yeah, we managed to get through the teenage years. We managed to get through their 20s when they thought I was stupid, and now they think I'm not so bad. So this is all. I find that we are all such different people, finding ways to mesh with each other, especially as adults, means that we have changed our relationships over the years. And that's a really important thing. I think a lot of people talk about professional success, but they don't always talk about their personal lives. And my husband and I still really enjoy each other. We love each other. We have figured out how to live together for 40 years, which is really great. And um, I think it's also challenging. How do you grow together? Now, we do this on purpose in organizations, in teams, but via our collaboration. But we don't always do it on purpose with our families. And yes, I'm pretty geeky. I'm pretty nerdy. So I actually thought about this. How do we grow together? And how do I help my family do this as well as my clients and the teams I work with? So for me, that's all. It's a mishmash of success, and it means I cannot ever achieve it. I am always working towards it.
As time goes by, I come to realize I'm still learning, so I come to realize the things that you already passed through. And yes, I noticed that also with my family that the skills we use into the office and the things we do in order to get somewhere, I don't know if it's good or bad, but when you use this with your family in a positive and good way, things usually turn a little bit better. I understand that you may be stressed or tired, or you may not want to do that with your loved ones. However, it comes to a point where you need to make a decision, and this will affect how you guys live, how you guys interact with each others. And as you said, your children, they speak with you, and I know people who do not speak anymore with the parents because of the environment that they have been exposed, the challenge that they have faced, and also the things they did not manage and solve in a good way. So congratulations for that, Johanna. This is very important.
Yeah.
And I could notice once you was speaking and describing things since we started, you mentioned two things that I would like to know more in your perspective. One of them that I could notice the environment. It seems that the environment plays a very big role. And the second thing is exactly about the balance. Let's say that the balance is our ultimate goal. We do not want a roller coaster. It happened. However, we prefer something a little bit more boring, and that is called balance. Can you please tell us more about that?
um, sure. So let me start with the environment first. I find that if we, um, I prefer a calm environment. I don't. If I go directly for that, I almost never achieve it. Instead, if I if I find calmness in my ability to adapt quickly, right? I notice a change. I see, oh, there's something I want to then adapt to. The faster I adapt, as opposed to staying where I want things to be, um, there, there's I talk a lot about the satiric change model on my Create an Adaptable Life blog. And we start off in old status quo where it's comfortable, everything is lovely, and we will do almost anything to stay in old status quo. But we often have a foreign element where something happens. Now, this could be an easy foreign element, right? You're driving somewhere, there's a road, there's road construction, there's a detour, you take the detour, maybe you get there 2 minutes later, but you still get to where you want to be. But other times, we often have very big foreign elements. That means we have to change everything. So the idea of remote work and return to office and hybrid teams, all of those are still part of a big foreign element we are dealing with now. And the more we can deal with that foreign element, the more we can if we ignore it, we're in chaos, right? And we can't get anything done. But the more we start to look for transforming ideas, the more we can practice and then get to a new status quo. Now I find that the more I practice going through the change model, the faster I am at being adaptable and resilient. That allows me to have a more calm environment. So I don't aim for a calm environment as my outcome. Instead, I am sure I will have zigs and zags and turns and all kinds of things that get in the way, in quotes, to that calm environment. But I can achieve the environment I want the more adaptable and resilient I am. And that's why aiming for the outcome you want might not be the direct path to getting there. Instead, the direct path is is the indirect path. And along the way, we might even find a better environment. I find this a lot in teams, right? I'm going to take an example. A lot of agile teams use Scrum, but they use Scrum very, very badly. So instead of saying they use Scrum badly, I say, what are the principles that matter to you? How can you use those principles to create a better environment for you so you can achieve the product development you want? And that's what I did in Create Your Successful Agile Project, where I said, what are the instead of focusing on better Scrum, how can we focus on creating an environment that allows and encourages agility? And that means we have to go through the change model all the time.
Yes, and find me here something from Marcus Aurelius that he says obstacles is the way, because most of the time we are in a hurry or we want to reach the goal, and we just take that obstacle as something that it shouldn't even be there, as you said, is a foreigner element. And instead of work that out, we just barely take attention on that. We find ways to move it away or get rid of it, and then we keep going in that direction instead of take the opportunity not only for learning, but also to understand that maybe the obstacle is part of what we are doing, and it may happen again and over again. And if we do not deal with it, if we do not have a different attitude, maybe that thing will not get better. And as you mentioned in the model of keep moving over and over into the changing. I also noticed something that maybe is familiar to you. In the environments which I worked for, the agile environments, I cannot tell that I saw the highest level of the company actually supporting or even openly speaking about it could be agile or the methodology the people choose or the way they decided to bring value. I am saying the way they decided because I saw very little involvement from the top of the company. And this is also part of the environment, right? It's already showing to you straight away that, okay, guys, we are doing this, but we are not doing this. Can you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So all managers, all senior leaders want agility, right? They want faster development. They want to capitalize the expenses. They want everything that agility will buy them. They do not care at all about any agile approach. In fact, any agile approach is not relevant to them. However, there's a very big disconnect between senior leadership and the teams, and not so much in the middle of management because they want to deliver what senior leadership wants, and they want to enable the teams. But it's more that how can we have agility when senior leadership is still asking for all the old stuff, right? The Gantt charts, the long roadmaps, the governance in terms of cost accounting. So we have built-in problems with agility, which is what senior leadership wants, and how teams work. So my most recent book is called Project Life Cycles: How to Reduce Risk, Release Successful Products, and Increase Agility. And that book explains how to use project risk and product risk to choose an approach that works for you. And because I wrote that book, I'm hoping that senior leaders will read it and say, oh, we can get enough agility by having our teams do this, and we are preventing teams from enough agility when we ask for that. So I'm really hoping that book helps both teams and managers, because we have this really big problem. Everyone wants agility, but the more we focus on the individual as opposed to the team, the more we focus on resource efficiency, which is a focus on what each person does as opposed to the whole, the less we get agility. And that's actually a really big problem.
Yes, this is a big element of the culture of fear.
Yeah,
You are clearly showing that you are tracking down people, and maybe in the beginning they may have some reaction and maybe do a bit more, but over time it's not sustainable because people just say, well, maybe there are better places, or maybe I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling what I would like to have or what I would like to work for. For example, someone who trusts me as a professional in the first place. This is a very big and complicated thing, and I'm happy to say that we saw recently from Spotify a very good answer where they say that the employers are not children.
right, right. Um, Employees are adults. I wrote this in at least one of my modern management made easy books. Employees almost all either pay rent or have a mortgage, right? They have a place to live. They get them they get themselves to work, clothes, fed. They have responsibilities, at least to pets, often to other humans who live with them. I mean, I don't know why we treat human beings who come to work as children. I just don't get it. Yeah.
What's the key to a fulfilling life?
So I only know my key, right? Not anybody else's key. And I think that this is something every single person has to answer for themselves. For me, it's a combination of the work I do and the people I do it with. And it's also, of course, my family and how I work with them. I don't mean work in the way of I have to work with them, but how I treat them and how they treat me. And then all of my hobbies. What gives me joy outside of work? Right? It can't we cannot just have work as the thing that gives us joy. And I have doubled down on my writing. I am working on fiction writing now, not just nonfiction writing. And I find that's actually a lot of fun. So, what do we do that's fun? What do we do that's meaningful? Does our fun is our fun also meaningful in some way? Um, maybe we give to others. Maybe being socially active is also part of what gives our lives meaning. But I think that fulfilling has to be knowing our purpose and finding ways to have a meaningful life.
Actually, I found this difficult because somehow we find ourselves working so much that life is just going on, and it's very hard to keep the balance because different than in other times, we did not have, let's say, personal devices which we dedicate quite of a time not only for work but also entertainment and many other things, and we're not seeing the world before we leave here. And I think that what happened to all of us in 2019 was eye-opening, and I'm very thankful to be here today talking to you as well, because we could see, I would say, it was very hard time to everyone, and we saw different governments behave in different ways, people behave in different ways, which is fine. You don't need to behave in a single way, but it shows that, you know, it seems we are not so sure about what we are doing, and we are doing grave mistakes. So, what do you think about that, considering that, to figure out how you will or not have a fulfilling life is important for you, of course. Travel, go around, get to know people, and we are doing this maybe lesser than before.
So I'm not going to talk about passion because I don't think anybody can know their passion, but I think they can know their purpose. Why are they here? What What value do we offer ourselves, our families, our community, the world? And that's the purpose. And that often changes throughout your life, right? The value we offer each other when we're 5 or 6 is totally different than when we're 18, which is totally different than when we're 25, which is totally different when we're 35, right? If we are not readjusting our lives on a regular basis, and yes, this goes back to the adaptability business. Um, we are not thinking how of what our purpose is and how to use it to make our best lives. Now, I'm not saying you have to retrospect every single week, but every single month or year, why not examine your life and say, am I living the most purposeful life I can? What would what would make it more purposeful? And we don't have to do something big, right? I really think that a lot of purpose happens in our homes and in our community, excuse me, our communities. Our communities are where we start off with the most impact on our environment. What can we do locally that allows us to make a global contribution? And when I think about that, that's that's how I think about uh, at least one key to a fulfilling life.
If I understood correctly, you are saying that it's important for us use baby steps. Do what is locally, do what is better, because that is the way we can impact and bring a change instead of all of a sudden like we used to be or like as a teenager, change the whole thing and reshape it because it's a really big deal, right?
It's a really big problem. Yeah. We have to break really big problems down into very small steps.
All right, thank you for that. And how do you want to be remembered, Johan?
So I want people to remember my writing, absolutely, and they should buy my books, all of them, all the time. But I really hope that people remember me as a thought provoker, where they might not agree with me all the time, but I make them think. And I would like my local community to remember me as somebody who tried to make things a little bit better.
Understood, Johanna. I really like what you say about how you would like to be remembered. And do you have final thoughts?
I do. I always have final thoughts. So I would like people to think about what matters to them. And my most recent create an adaptable life newsletter. I will give you the link to that. Has 3 essential questions about almost always what we want to do as goals, and not to make many of them, but 1 or 2, maybe 3, and then what do we have to stop doing in order to accomplish those goals, and what is the first step to doing any of them. And when I think about that, I am able to accomplish a lot in my business and in my personal life, right? Because I think of it as all intertwined. So I really want people to think about what do I want? How will that make my life and work better? And then how do I make a small step towards it? And especially, what am I not doing anymore? So in terms of my business, I still do a whole lot of trusted advisor work, mentoring work, coaching work. I am a lot less likely to do workshops with teams, mostly, mostly because most teams don't need those workshops. Instead, what they need is to read my books, and then I need I need to work with senior leadership because the environment is not what teams need. So if I want to work on the environment, I can work with teams, and I often coach teams to figure out how to present their business case to senior leadership. That is something I do a lot. I was at a conference last week, and the men there asked me, why is it that when we hire a consultant and they say exactly what we've been saying all along, that senior leadership listens to them and does not listen to us? And I said, that's because consultants like me write and speak a lot. We have authority that you do not have. And I can teach you how to get that authority, but sometimes it's a lot easier just to hire me. Right? And that's how it works. Is that reasonable? I don't know. It's what it is. So if people want to see how I work, everything is on jrothman.com, JROTHMAN.com. My personal essay blog is greenadaptablelife.com, and I am happy to work with anybody who wants to get just a little bit better.